Well, welcome back, Young Justice. And welcome back, everybody, to the Takeover. We're here. We told you season 3 has been totally different than anything we've done before in the past. And this week is no different. Now, I know I promised y'all something last week, but we're taking an audible this week because something came up we need to deal with. And Justice is back. So this is a perfect opportunity. So hold on to your chairs. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to the best hour of your life. We're back with the Takeover Season 3, Episode 9. I'm your host, Marcellus. You can call me Marcellus. You can call me Cellus. You can call me Flav. You can call me whatever you want to call me. You cannot call me empty because I'm full of the love of Christ. And I'm sitting here. You haven't seen him in a month. I'm sitting here with this guy.
The very dapper and sophisticated Justice. And listen, let me tell you something. Look at this. Look at my side. Look at how I'm dressed. And look at his side. It's not as sophisticated as my side.
But anyway, forget about this sophisticated dude over here. We are back, man. We're going to do a very special show today, Justice. We've never done this before. We're going to get back to what we promised last week in the death in the family, how death affects our family. But there's something that happened in current events that really we need to address, and it's family oriented, but it's crosshairs on our youth. And we want to talk about our youth and in our family ties that bond series. And we need to do that by talking about current events, what's going on in the world right now. That's what season 3 is all about. So we need to stay in that vein. But as usual, we want to start by saying our thoughts are our thoughts. My thoughts are my thoughts, his thoughts are his thoughts. Together, they're our thoughts, and they're not necessarily indicative of the thoughts of anybody else, including Kingdom Heaven Ministries, Apostle Lonnie W. Brown, or Lady Frances Brown. Though they're not going to deviate too far from them, we don't want you blaming them for something we say if you don't agree with it. If you don't agree with it, send us a message, leave a comment, send an email, smoke signals, whatever you want to do, let us know, and we'll deal with it. But, Justice, since you're back after a month hiatus, why don't you start us off?
I'm pretty sure you haven't been giving them the Big Mac of Word while I was gone.
Oh, they got it.
Which you didn't explain to them that it was the Big Mac of Word.
No, I didn't.
You see? So we got Psalms 127, 3 through 5. And it says in verse 3, children are a gift from the Lord. All right. Starting out strong. They are a reward from him. Okay. Verse 4 says, children born to a young man are like arrows in a warrior's hands. How joyful is the man whose quiver is full of them. He will not be put to shame when he confronts his accusers at the city gates.
So remember that children are a gift from the Lord. So we don't want to mess up something that's a gift from the Lord, right? And if we go on in Proverbs 1, 8 through 9, it says, my child, listen when your father corrects you. Don't neglect your mother's instruction. What you learn from them will crown you with grace and be a chain of honor around your neck. So we need to speak to parents and people that deal with children, but also the children. We need to listen as children when our father corrects us, our mother instructs us. And we're going to talk about why those two things are important, or you're going to see why those scriptures are important as we get into our current events of the evening. But before we get into it, you know, Justice, we used to talk about, we did a segment on one of our other outlets that was called Check with God. You remember that segment?
I do.
And, you know, some people need to check with God before they do stuff in the church. And wild comical, I kind of think God kind of, lets us know we're not pleasing him in some ways, shape, or form. And I think this guy found out too. guess God might have just did a Kenneth Copeland and blew him over. Huh?
Well, I don't know if God's breath is strong enough to blow him over. That might have been something more worldly than the
But
breath.
the Bible says.
Okay.
It's not, well, maybe it's not the Bible. Maybe it's Donnie McClurkin said it's not how many times you fall down, but we fall down, but we get up.
Can he get up?
I hope he got up. Praise God. I hope he got up because it didn't look good. But anyway, man, let's get past that. But before we get into these current events, we want to let y'all know we've been dealing with family. Everything that we've done for the last month and a half, the last 5 shows or so, have been dealing with family. So we want to start by, again, defining what family is. Justice.
Yes, the Spiritual Dictionary defines kingdom family as a faith camp authorized to train men and women, insisting on lifestyles that yield purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and the definition of family is the basic unit responsible for relationship formation and character development, promoting the expansion and advancement of the kingdom of God so all can experience the enjoyment of a kingdom lifestyle.
Right. So y'all, if you are the devil, you want to attack this first and foremost because it's the basic unit responsible for our relationship formation. So if you attack the family and you don't learn the keys to relationship formation, then the rest of your relationships are affected by that. And then that can cause problems when you're trying to advance the kingdom of God. And that's why the devil is really intently and intensely focused on the family right now. If you look around you and we see these things that are happening around us, some stuff we're not even going to get into today, like the mass shooting that was just in Orange County, California. The devil is busy out here, y'all. And sometimes it's legitimate to say the devil is busy. Like, sometimes we blame the devil for stuff that ain't got nothing to do with the devil, but sometimes the devil is really busy. But there's 3 laws to that kingdom family. It's dedication, commitment, devotion, moral demand, and destiny focus of the training. And we've talked about this before, so you've heard this. But think about this. If you're in this faith camp in a family, and this is where you're building your faith up and how you're learning, if that family's attacked, then what happens to your faith? And see, we wonder why our faith is challenged, or we see faith challenged in young people today, especially. And so if I'm the devil, of course I'm attacked. But like I said, this is going to be a show that's all about what's going on right now, the current events that's happening in our society. So, of course, COVID-19 is right there at the top. Now, COVID is back on the rise in 25 out of 50 states. Half of the United States, COVID is back on the rise, and that includes Michigan. Don't be deceived. Here's the thing, Justice, that might surprise you. Statistics are showing right now that the numbers jump in Michigan is primarily from ages 10 to 19. Now, before, people thought, those are going to be the least affected group. But 10 to 19, now what's been happening? In that age range, kids have been going back to school. So when they go back to school, there was a big push. Get these children back in school. They need to be back in school. Nothing's going to happen to them. The children are not susceptible to the virus, and then boom, the numbers jump up because guess what's happening? They're going to school, spreading germs like wildfire, and spreading COVID around to each other. And then the second group is the 20 to 29-year-olds. So it's the younger group that's causing the spike and not what we assume is the older groups. Now, the other thing to that is the older groups have been largely the ones getting the vaccine. So there is some parallel there as to why the numbers are not raising in the older group, but raising in the younger group. So hopefully as more younger people become eligible for the vaccine, then those numbers will hopefully start going down. You got your first shot of the vaccine. Justice, how'd you feel?
Well, I was in the chair and I started asking him a bunch of questions. A lot of these conspiracy theories and stuff like that. Got his opinion, and he really kind of explained the whole process to me. It's still a little early. Kind of this whole thing started and it was just running super fast. It was like people are understandably, kind of afraid and scared of this thing. But he said the FDA wouldn't have approved it if it wasn't safe. And so, you got to have faith that this thing is safe for you and your children. But, my arm was sore. I had to actually, the day after I got the vaccine, I went to work and I had to unload the truck at 5 o'clock in the morning. And my arm, normally after I get a shot, it's not this sore, but it was ugh, like, trying to get the boxes up, gotta put them on the conveyor to get it out of here. But
You already ain't that strong.
what's our next topic? What is our next topic?
But you know what, man? You make a good point. So what do you think about, should the governor do anything for these numbers rising in Michigan?
Well, yeah, obviously. Well, we got COVID cases rising. I am very proud of my governor, Governor Whitmer, and I know some people, you know, she's not the greatest governor we've ever had, but in the midst of this crisis, she has just been so on point with everything. She made the tough decisions when they need to be made. You see other states, they just went out of control. Michigan was kind of in control in terms of COVID cases. I mean, you still had a lot, but it wasn't as much as it could have been. So, I think, she's going to make another tough decision. Obviously, we're kind of at the tail end of this. We started in 2019, December, and we've been through the worst of it. I think we're at the tail end of it.
But, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with your Governor Whitman. I don't disagree with the fact that she's done a good job with it. I think there's been some situations where she could have done a lot better. But right now, she's saying she's not inclined to make any changes. But why do you think people are still afraid to take the vaccine?
Well, there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there, and there's a lot of misinformation, especially on social media. I heard from someone that if you take it, it'll mess up with your fertility, being able to have children. And I don't know how I don't know how that's biologically possible, but getting all the facts of how the virus, how the vaccine actually works, it really doesn't have anything to do with your reproductive system. So, and stuff like that. So I think a lot of misinformation, a lot of conspiracy theories out there are really turning people off this vaccine. And then some people have that in their mind. They're like, well, I had the virus. I'm okay. And, there have been cases where people have gotten reinfected with COVID, and it was just as bad as the first time. So I don't know. But
there's also cases of people being reinfected after taking the vaccine.
There you go.
145 people in Michigan. Now, that's a very small number by comparison to the people vaccinated. So let's just say, I think the total number was 1.3 million people vaccinated last time I checked, and 145 reinfections. So that's about 0.01%. So you're talking a 1/100% chance. That's a lot better than average, right? So the vaccine is still shown to be at least effective. At least effective. But you're right, Justice, but you also got to remember that there are some people with some legitimate fear and some legitimate concern about the government issuing out this widespread vaccination that can bring them back to memories of the Tuskegee experiments and things of that nature that people have. It's going to be hard to get over. And then think about it like this. Some people ask a simple question, and it's a simple question, but it's hard to have a simple answer, is why would you go take medicine for something you haven't been sick of all year and then basically get sick by it? Because most people that take the second shot have some side effects. It's a simple question, but it's a hard question to answer. So I only say that to say there's some legitimate concerns. So I don't want to make it seem like we're poo-pooing anybody's concerns on this, because we're not. But Justice, one more question about that. Have you heard about the stem cells of aborted fetuses being used in the production of the vaccines?
I have not.
Well, that is interesting. So some people are saying that's why they're against, as Christians, that's why they're against the vaccines, because they use stem cells from aborted fetuses. This is fact. This is not conjecture. Does that change your view about vaccines at all?
Well, obviously, yeah, it does. I've been taught that abortion is wrong, and we need to preserve the sanctity of life. So the fact that they use these aborted fetuses in there completely changes it. I could see why people would be hesitant to take this vaccine, knowing when it opens up your mind to stuff. And I think now that the more information you know, sometimes information can, be a bad. Too much information can be a bad thing, but um, just the right amount of information, I think, is good in terms of this kind of
It's
stuff.
very interesting that you say that. You know they use stem cells in cancer research too.
No, I did not.
This is not. So this is what I say to you, and I to everybody: research it. You just gotta, you know, take it for what you want to take. Like I said, if you got any questions, you can say, leave me a comment. Send us an email, khmsocialmedia@gmail.com. I'll be glad to go back and forth with you about it. But we just kind of wanted to introduce this topic because it's going on, and these questions are what's going on in society. But Justice, there's another big thing going on, and I got to tell you, it's hard for me to kind of deal with this in some way, shape, or form. But the trial of Derek Chauvin began last week. If y'all don't know, that's the officer that was kneeling on George Floyd and killed him. His trial began last week, and I said I want to reiterate that it's his trial, not George Floyd's trial, because a lot of people are going to they're going to try George Floyd and say, oh, he was taking drugs. Oh, he tried to pass a counterfeit bill. Nobody's holding him up as if he's perfect, by the way. That doesn't mean he deserved to die. Have you heard anything about the trial? Have you seen any of it?
Um, I haven't been as active with that as some other people are, so I am coming in kind of new.
I haven't watched any of the trial, to be honest with you, because I don't want to.
Okay.
I'll be perfectly honest because it triggers me. Um, it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch. It's hard to listen to. It's hard to listen to the people that were there that said they tried to prevent it. Um, the ambulance driver that came and took me away that said none of the officers were trying to um, do CPR or chest compressions or anything like that. So it's a lot, man. So, but it does lead me to this other question: can a person like George Floyd, that clearly is flawed, can they still be held up as a national symbol of something? Right now, George Floyd he's a national symbol of police brutality. Do you think that it detracts from that symbolism because he's flawed?
Um, no, I don't think so. You look throughout history, some of our greatest men and women were flawed. You know, like Thomas Jefferson created the Declaration of Independence, um, and he owned slaves. And I heard a really interesting story about him too. Uh, he had an affair with one of his slaves, and she had children, and he had children with his wife, and they kind of reconnected a couple years ago, the Jeffersons. But some of our greatest men throughout and women throughout history were flawed. So um, George Floyd, I don't know what he did. I don't know the specifics of what he did, um, but I know that no matter what he did, people can still look up to him as a hero, kind of, as this great symbol of why we need this change to happen.
I agree with that. I just well put, by the way. I don't necessarily think of as a hero. I think we got to be careful with that word, um, because I don't want to put no man on a pedestal like that. We have our own heroes, right? My dad, my brother. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if you don't know these people, we got to be careful putting people on pedestals that we don't know. You know what I'm saying? We got to stop doing that. Well, some other current events are happening in Georgia.
Yes,
Justice,
the
talk to us.
Peach State, Georgia. So I don't know if you know this, but there was a certain someone who thought that the election was rigged in certain states, and they decided that they wanted to do like a recount or whatever. But the aftermath of this, there's some lawmakers in certain states that are saying, our election system is flawed. We need to do some adjustments. So in Georgia, they passed a voting law, um, new voter identification requirements for absentee ballots, and which empowers the state officials to take over local election boards, limiting the use of ballot drop boxes, and makes it a crime to approach voters in line to give them food and water. And you have other states that have different speculations, like you know you have to physically put the absentee ballot in the drop box. Certain people can get it if you are fit enough, and if young enough to go out to the ballots on election day, then you can't use an absentee and certain stuff like that. So the question comes up often about these new restrictions. Is it fair or not fair? You know?
What do you think?
Oh man. Well, I kind of don't know.
That's fair. I think. Well, I tried to. Y'all don't know this, but I had a conversation with Justice the other day, the other week, about fairness versus equalness, and this is where this comes down to. See, it really doesn't matter. See, people talk about equality as if it's the main goal, and it's not. And I know that y'all looking at me like, wait a minute, that's what the goal is, right? No. Equality. I'm trying to think of this quote that a person said. Um, he said something to the effect that there's nothing more unequal than treating unequals equally. Something to that effect. But think about this. So let's just say you got a 6'7" person and you got a 6 foot person, and they both need to see over a 7 foot fence. Equality would say that if I give this 6'7" person a 6 inch box, they can see over the fence. Right? That'll make them 7'1". Right? You get that?
Okay, yeah.
You didn't see that in your mind.
Well, I do now.
But if I give the same equal box, equal 6 inches, to the 6 foot person, are they gonna be able to see over the wall? Does that make sense that I give that 6 foot person the same 6 inch box?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't make sense. Why?
Because you need to give him some more room so he can see over the fence, because he's not going to if you give him that box.
Because he started off 7 inches shorter, right?
Yeah.
So he got to have 7 inch more in order to get him to an equal playing field. This is the issue with equality versus fairness, or equality versus equitableness. This is where you get into the discussion of reparations, for example. How some rules that might seem fair or that might seem equal are not fair because they disproportionately target certain segments. So you talk about a voter suppression law, which is essentially what this is. This is not voter identification law. This is voter suppression. And I'm gonna tell you how bad it's got. It's gotten so bad that the Major League Baseball has removed their All-Star game from the city of Atlanta this year. That was scheduled to be played later this year. They've taken it out of the city of Atlanta in protest of these new laws that are unfair. Why would it be a crime to give somebody food and water in line? Why does that make any sense?
I never got food and water.
That is not the point. Why does that make sense? It doesn't make sense. It's okay to say it doesn't make sense because it don't make sense. But anyway, we have to look at these things. This is what's going on in our world today. Again, research it, make your own judgment. But you know, we got a real crisis in Flint, man. That's attacking young people too, that we don't know about. And this is kind of the precipice of where we're going. In Flint, in our city of Flint, a 3-year-old, Justice, a 3-year-old was hospitalized for suspected heroin overdose. A 3-year-old. Now, they are expected to survive. I don't know if you're familiar with the opioid crisis in America, but we have a serious crisis in America. You see, your TV shows are dealing with it. I was watching a show last night, Station 19, that was dealing with opioid crisis in America, and it dealt with this couple that basically kept overdosing, and they couldn't stop. They were trying to stop, and to the point where the ambulance went and got one, took him to the hospital, gave him some Narcan, took him to the hospital, got him back, had to go right back to the same address and get his girlfriend and take her to the hospital for the same thing. Now, I know it was a TV show, but these are things that have happened. To the point, to the degree that even here at our ministry, we had to do some training in opioid crisis and how to deal with somebody who's dealing with an opioid crisis. I've been through training on how to deliver Narcan, how to deliver the nasal or the shot to hopefully give somebody that jolt to get them out of that state of unconsciousness. A 3-year-old though. I mean, it's a real crisis in America. I mean, I could go into their states and cities in America that's been sieged by opioid crisis throughout the whole city. And I don't know if I ever told you this, but a few years ago at the bowling alley, somebody came in, and a lot of people don't know, my father had just left. He was watching me bowl, and he had just left. And I believe my mom was with him that night, but they had just left. And then somebody came running back in the bowling alley and said, yelling for help. And so I thought it was my father who had just left, that, I thought something had happened. So I was running out the bowling alley. What's going on? And then the guy pointed me over to a car and was saying they're not breathing or they're not conscious. One of them's on the ground. There was a car with 3 guys in it, 2 in the front seat. One of them was actually laying next to the car in the parking lot. None of them conscious. All 3 unconscious. And so I've been trained in how to deal with, be a first responder and everything. So I ran over, checking the signs. They're breathing. So I know they're not in cardiac arrest per se. I don't need to give them CPR to make them breathe. But I didn't know what was going on, so I told the guy, go call 911. Luckily, there was a police station just a couple of doors down, so the police arrived there first. They came on the scene, jumped out, asked me a bunch of questions. What's going on? I'm telling them 3 dudes, 2 in there. I've been beating. But meantime, I've been shaking them, hitting on them, yelling at them, trying to get them to wake up. So the police officer got there. She said, okay. She jumped in there. She kind of yelled at him, shook him, yelled out to the other guy, give me the kit, the overdose kit. Dude threw her the kit. Boom. She pulled out the Narcan, hit him with the nasal shot. Nothing happened. Got the other one out. Boom. Hit him with another nasal shot. This one started to stir a little bit. They had to call. So when the next unit came, they already knew. They called out on the thing, hey, when you come in, just bring your kit. You know what I'm saying? As soon as you get here. So another police officer pulled up, grabbed their kit out, threw it to him. They hitting the other guy that's on the ground and the one that's in the front seat. The one on the ground took 3 hits of this Narcan and still didn't come to. I still don't know what happened to him. The other 2 in the front seat they ended up coming to. But my point is this: what happened is they got a hold of some bad heroin. Mm-hmm. It was laced with something, and there was a situation where that story was not singular. That story was, there was multiple of these stories that were going around, and in our Flint area, and they got a hold of some bad heroin. And so, man, you imagine what those parents must feel like with a child getting a hold of their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some bad heroin going around the city right now. There's been a couple of deaths from bad heroin. So please, if you need help with the opioid situation, get help. There's crisis hotlines. There are people out here that will help you. Get help, please, if you need. And that's heroin, even if it's prescription drugs. Get help. Get help. But anyway, man, we want to talk about the elephant in the room, if you will. And I know a lot of you all that are watching, you've seen what's happening with Lil Nas X and these Satan shoes. And if you haven't, on your screen, there'll be pictures of the shoes that you'll see. But there's basically a black pair of Nike Air Max 97s that have been modified to become these Satan shoes. Now, they were numbered pairs, so there were only 666 made, obviously 666.
Mm-hmm.
So your pair would say 7 out of 666 on the side. There was a pentagram medallion that was hanging. Nike is famous for using hang tags, so there was a pentagram there instead of that. And here is one of the things that really got you. There's the air bubble was filled with, I think, 10 cc's of red dye and 1 drop of human blood. Yes, that's what I said. I said human blood. And then to cap that off, it had Luke 10:18 on the side of the shoe. And to coincide with Luke 10:18, they sold for $1,018. Now, this was a collaboration with Lil Nas X and a company called Mischief, who's also collaborated before months ago, and they did this Jesus shoes that supposedly had holy water in the sole from the Jordan River. Which, if you believe that, I got a bridge over here on the south side of Flint that I need to sell you. But the irony of Luke 10:18 on the side of the shoe is interesting. The whole idea of wearing something called Satan shoes isn't. You know how fast these shoes sold out, Justus?
I don't.
Under a minute.
Wow.
Under a minute. $1,018. Sold out in under a minute. Now, there was a huge backlash. Nike caught a whole bunch of flack. Immediately, this stuff started spreading like a wave. I heard about it, and then I started seeing articles here and there, and people speaking out on Twitter, governors speaking out. And I'll tell you, first of all, Lil Nas X is a internet troll at his finest. The boy was take on anybody on the internet, and he funny too. I had to give it to him. He's funny. He was tearing people up on the internet. But in all seriousness, though, this is what we're talking about, the crosshairs being on our youth. What's more popular than Nike? Particularly with our youth. There isn't any shoe more popular. There isn't. We just had Air Max Day on March the 26th. So this is all coinciding this time. And then to have this happen on what we know as Palm Sunday, at the beginning of the Holy Week for the Christian faith. Let's look at Luke 10 and 17 through 20 and kind of put that into some context, Justus.
Okay. All right. Chapter 10, verse 17 says, when the 72 disciples returned, they joyfully reported to him, Lord, even the demons obey us when we use your name. And verse 18 says, yes, he told them, I saw Satan fall from heaven like lightning.
So hold on. That's what verse 18 says. So that was the specific verse on the shoe. Yes, he told them, I saw Satan fall from heaven like lightning. So this is Jesus talking to his disciples, right? But I want you to notice something. That's not the end of the quotation marks, is it?
Nope.
He wasn't done talking. What else did he say?
Then he goes on to say, look, I have given you authority over all the power of the enemy, and you can walk among snakes and scorpions and crush them. Nothing will injure you. But don't rejoice because evil spirits obey you. Rejoice because your names are registered in heaven.
Oh, see, it wasn't about him seeing Satan fall as lightning. He was just letting them know that because Satan was defeated, I've given you the authority over all that power, not just me. When I took out Satan in that time, you got that power now. But don't get all happy because you got power over evil spirits. Get happy because your name is in the Lamb's book of life, right? So that's the end goal. This is what Jesus was talking about. So to pull out this particular scripture, you got to ask yourself, why did Lil Nas X pull out this scripture? So there's a website. They were not sold. Let me just say this. Nike, do not come after me. I got on Nikes right now. Don't come after me, Nike. I know you didn't have anything to do with this shoe. Okay, Nike did not produce this shoe. Nike did not sell this shoe. It was not on any Nike website because when the first thing I did when I saw the picture was I went to Nike website and I looked for the shoe. It was not there. You had to go to a website called Satan.shoes in order to see it.
Wow.
And it was the company Mischief. They had set up this website. When they did the Jesus shoes, it was Jesus.shoes. Okay. So it was not Nike. A lot of people thought it was Nike. A lot of people jumped on Nike. I saw people burning Nike stuff. I'm never supporting Nike again. People was literally outside burning their stuff. They ain't did a lick of research, but you know how you know how we jump to conclusions, right? We ain't researched nothing but just out here jumping. I'm never supporting Nike again. They are coming up now. Candace Owens has something to say. This was Nike, the big corporation Nike, coming after the youth of America. No, this was not Nike. This was Mischief, okay? And Lil Nas X. Currently, Nike has a temporary restraining order on the sale of the shoes, which is kind of pointless at this point because the shoes already been sold and a lot of them been shipped out already. It was only 666 made, so clearly it's kind of late in the game to get that. But Nike got to save face now. You know, Nike got to save face. So what they suing them for is trademark infringement and dilution of their brand, basically. A lot of people don't know, but in order to sell Nikes, you need to have a contract with Nike to allowing you to sell their product legally. But there's a lot of selling that happens illegally. Nike don't have time to chase down everybody because ultimately they still get money and they don't really care. Let's just call it what it is. Their goal is to make money. So when they put the Jesus shoes out, they wasn't tripping because the Jesus shoes was making money. And wasn't nobody tripping on Nike because the Jesus shoes. Wasn't nobody saying, Nike, we ain't buying no more Nikes. We about to burn your stuff up. But boy, you put them Satan shoes out and people start burning up your clothes, they Nike clothes and shoes and saying they ain't buying no more. Nike said, oh, wait a minute. Now they cutting into our money. It ain't because they Christian and nothing like that. They just think about the money, right? So Nike caused some of this problem themselves because they didn't come out against somebody else modifying their shoe or this company modifying their shoes in another way and selling them, but they are coming out against this. So now people are saying, oh, wait a minute. This is what Mischief is saying. This is what Mischief put on. If you go to the website, the Satan.shoes website is still up. If you go there now, it used to have a whole pictures of the shoe and the thing would be spinning around, the shoe would be spinning around, and all kind of stuff in the background. The box was adorned with these demons and all kind of stuff. It was some creepy, heebie-jeebie type stuff. Like you don't want to look at it before bed. But now the website has a statement from Mischief. And in part, that statement says, it's a longer statement, but part of it says, over a year ago, we released the Jesus shoes. As a manifested speculative artwork, Jesus shoes conflate celebrity collab culture and brand worship with religious worship in a limited edition line of art objects. So what they're basically saying is there's a culture of this celebrity collaboration with Nike. Celebrities like Travis Scott, Soulfly. All these celebrity companies have collaborated with Nike DJ Khaled, and put out their shoes. And they're saying, hey, we're just saying, hey, we're taking advantage of this culture. And basically, people are worshiping those shoes because if you don't know, the collaboration shoes, they go for thousands of dollars comparatively to it. The shoe itself is worth not nearly that much, but it regularly costs maybe $190, but they're selling for thousands of dollars right now. I think to get one of the DJ Khaled limited Jordans, it might cost you $10,000 to get that shoe. So they're basically saying, Mischief is saying, we're going to take that, y'all worshiping these collabs, and we're going to compare it to like religious worship, and so we're going to collab and make this Jesus shoe. That's what they were saying. So they went on to say last week's release of the Satan shoes in collaboration with Lil Nas X was no different. Satan shoes started a conversation, and while also living natively in its own space. It is the art created for people to observe, speculate, own, purchase, and own. Heresy only exists, and here's where it got interesting. Heresy only exists in relation to doctrine. Who is Nike to censor one but not the other? Satan is as much a part of the art historical canon as Jesus, from Renaissance hell moves to Milton. Satan exists as a challenger to the ultimate authority. We are delighted to work with Lil Nas X on Satan shoes and continue this dialogue. What do you think about that?
Well, I didn't even know this thing about the Jesus shoes, but how do you go from making Jesus shoes to Satan shoes, and then like embracing it, like, hey, listen. I mean, they say it's just art, but it's got to be more than that. I mean, it's more. It's got more overt symbolism, I think, in it.
But so did the Jesus shoe. The
Yeah.
Jesus shoe, instead of a pentagram, it had a cross hanging from it. Now you might be saying, "Oh, that's awesome. I'm a Christian," but everybody ain't a Christian.
I wouldn't buy the Jesus shoe now. I mean, knowing that they made the Satan shoe. The company is corrupt to me.
The company is saying that, hey, we just producing art for art's sake, for conversation. So they're basically saying, how can you call it heresy if you didn't call it heresy for the Jesus shoe, is what they're saying. Now, as Christians, obviously, we have a viewpoint on it, but if we're looking objectively, Nike put themselves in a bad situation by not stopping the Jesus shoe. Now, would they have caught more flack for stopping it? Now, because you got people that are going to be mad, you stopping the Jesus shoe, and they're going to be saying, we ain't never buying Nikes again. So Nike, it's kind of in a rough situation. But when you glorify this collaboration or this collab culture, and you didn't speak out on this, now you're going to have, I was telling people this from the very beginning. You guys, my brother, I was telling people Nike's going to be in trouble because it's going to be hard to come against the Satan shoe because you didn't come against the Jesus shoe. So now people are going to say, are you really coming against the shoe, or are you coming against Lil Nas X because he's gay? And that's what the narrative becomes. And now you got to deal with that, right? But the website for the shoe also says, if you read on there at the very bottom, mind you, the website, the whole background is black, and this is all in red writing, by the way. So I think it is very creepy. So they still playing on the blood thing in the Satan shoe. But, and I'll be honest with you, if the shoe didn't have the pentagram, and if it didn't have the blood and the stuff on the side, I mean the black and red, I mean that's a nice looking shoe. But boy,
what is?
I mean, it is. I might create them on Nike. I mean, it's a nice looking shoe. I mean, black and red just go together. But they plan on this. So they also, at the very bottom, if you read it, it says, better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. Ooh-wee.
Playing with fire now.
Ooh-wee. Now, I know you probably don't know where that came from, right?
No.
There's a poem back from and don't quote me on the years. I believe it was the 1600s. Don't quote me. I believe it was 1600s. by a man by the name of John Milton wrote the poem Paradise Lost. Now I ain't talking about a poem like I wrote my book, like that's a page long. I'm talking about an epic poem that's like 12 different sections and super long, kind of like a Shakespearean type thing. But Paradise Lost was written from the perspective of Satan and the fallen angels who lost paradise, right? Paradise Lost. And generally, it kind of tells the story of their fall, but then it also tells the story of the fall of man, the fall of Adam and Eve and their lost paradise. So it's kind of a supernatural paradise lost in heaven. You lost heaven, and then man lost this domestic paradise in the Garden of Eden, right? And so this was one of the main themes of the book that Satan, or the poem that John Milton says Satan kind of used as rhetoric to gather up all the fallen angels and get them on his side. Hey, it's better to serve, or better to reign in hell than to serve in heaven. So that's what's at the bottom of this website for mischief.
Makes sense in context, but he kind of took it out of context.
Well,
Well, that's
that's nasty, ain't it? So the poem itself is very, I don't want to say it's interesting, but it is interesting in that it very much paints Satan in his position of power, of using this cunning rhetoric to fool Eve into sinning after committing to corrupt God's new favorite creation. So after Satan fell, he basically got all the fallen angels together and said, hey, I'm going to go back up here. I'm going to use all my cunning skill to fool Eve into sinning because they're God's new favorite and he didn't like me no more. So I'm going to get his new favorite. And so it's a, I know you've heard Pastor Brown say it, but it's a great example of anthropomorphism, where we give gods and deities human form and we give them human thoughts. And so John Milton was doing that in this poem by imagining this is what Satan was doing, imagining this is what God was doing. And so these shoes and that story all go together and they collide. They go together and then they go on this collision course with Lil Nas. I don't know if it's Nas or Nas. I guess it's Nas. Lil Nas X's new song. This new song is called Montero, Call Me By Your Name, right? Now, Call Me By Your Name is also, so his name is Montero. Call Me By Your Name is also the title of a homosexual film that he watched when he started writing this song. So it's a very, we have to quit looking at the surface level of things, especially when we're dealing with our children and we're dealing with our youth. We have to look into these meanings because there's more meaning than we want to say. Now, Paradise Lost was written so many years ago, but he pulled that back out and he's intertwined that with these Satan shoes of the new day and age. And then he's doing that all on top of the imagery that's in this song, Montero. Now, before we get to Montero, Lil Nas X was famous for what? What song?
Old Town Road.
Old Town Road.
Mm-hmm.
What do you know about Old Town Road, Justice?
Well, kind of embarrassed about it now, but it was a popular song before I graduated high school, and it was always playing in the background, somewhere. We did it on our school news. We could play it all the time on our school news show that we did. But yeah, I mean, it was just always playing, and my cousins got into it. Leilani got into it.
Did you just call her name out?
I don't.
That's funny.
My niece and nephew got into it. It's just like, okay.
Well, how did you feel about it?
Well, at first, I mean, I was just like, okay, cool. It's a song. I mean, I liked it. It was a good song. It sounded good. No.
I'm just asking because the boy can't sing. So I don't know am I the only one who realizes that he can't really sing?
I think we were all in denial at first.
Like the only thing I remember from Old Town Road was Billy Ray Cyrus, the country singer. If y'all don't know who that is, he's a popular country singer, and he sung the hook of the song. I'm gonna take my horse to the Old Town Road, and ride until I can't no more. I never liked the song. I'm not. People know me, know I don't listen to the song because I just thought it was trash. But you know, that's just me. But I actually like music for music, so I like when people can sing and stuff like that. So I'm not just into a beat or into a melody. But I do admit that the melody was catchy. Like it was almost cartoonish. It was it tapped into the video, which I didn't know a video exists. I just looked at the video before we did the show. But the video tapped into just like the neighborhood playing around where they're having a dance battle, and he's riding a horse through the neighborhood, right? And he's racing against a car in the neighborhood, drag racing against a car, and he's on his horse. And so it was kind of it was portrayed as this fun, catchy little tune for children, et cetera, played in schools, played in commercials, all over the place. This song has set a record for the longest at the top of the charts. I believe it was 19 weeks
that. Yep.
In 2019 when it came out. In fact, in January 2020, I believe it was, or maybe it was 20. Yeah, I think it was 2020, or maybe it was 2021. Even Lil Nas X said he recognized that children have become his biggest target audience, right? But let's take a look at some of the words of the song, shall we? Y'all just know I'm reading words, okay? I ain't the one who wrote it, so don't come after me. All right. This is what Lil Nas X says in the song. Riding on a tractor, lean all in my bladder. Lean. That's a drug. You don't know. Cheated on my baby. You can go and ask her. My life is a movie, bull riding and boobies. Now, does that sound like something you want children listening to? Especially, maybe you don't care if you're not a Christian of some sort, or maybe you don't care. Maybe you don't care if they listen to it. But I cannot imagine you want how old was your little cousin, little niece, nephew?
4 and 5?
About 4 and 5. I can't imagine you want them listening to a song about lean all in their bladder.
No.
But it got melded into that neighborhood thing, and this is just as fun, this cartoonish type thing. And see, this is what we missed. We missed this part because we didn't look past the surface. We didn't look past the surface of this honky tonk song, Old Town Road, and it was so fun, and it was so devilish. And see, it was on the same exact album of a song he wrote called Closure, where it was him coming out of the closet of being gay. But on that same album was this Old Town Road where he's talking about cheating on his baby. You go and ask her. So which is it? See, I have my own theory that he might be using gay because it's popular right now. But that's my own theory. Because how do you put this on the same album? The same album. Both of these songs are on there. So, but this new song, so we missed that with Old Town Road, but this is where his popularity got. So he's popular with all the children now because of this. Now he puts out this new video called Montero. And this video, I'm telling you, is 3 minutes long. It's a little bit over 3 minutes long, and all 3 minutes was wild. When I tell you wild, I mean from the beginning to the end. It depicts everything from Eve's temptation, where Lil Nas X is playing both Eve and the serpent. And then the serpent ended up kissing Eve and then licking her stomach. And then she fell and went in chains to, I guess, some type of judgment with Lil Nas X dressed as a woman on one side and dressed as a man on the other side. And after that judgment, it was like he was cast down into hell, I guess, but he was doing it on the pole, like he was pole dancing with these long red braids, and dropped all the way down to hell, and got to hell and started dancing with the devil and dancing all on the devil, giving the devil a erotic dance, and then end up snapping the devil necks and putting the horns on himself. And in the beginning, there were some words inscribed on the tree that says something. It's something to the effect of everybody's looking for their other half, because we all got another half that we're not facing, basically. And he's facing this. He's fully embracing his other half, talking about being gay. And I know, as I say all that, I know you're cringing right now. I get it. But see, the thing about us as Christians, we look like hypocrites now. In some ways, because we look past artists in my past, in my days, as Esham, Nodis, whose name is Satan spelled backwards, if you didn't recognize that. Out now, Lil Uzi Vert. Say that fast. Lil Uzi Vert. Lucifer. That's what that is all about. Miley Cyrus, who's the daughter of Billy Ray Cyrus in that Old Town Road video. Some of the stuff she's done. Matter of fact, she owns a pair of the Satan shoes. Also, Jay-Z and all of his symbolism and third eye, things of that nature. Beyonce, Bone Thugs and Harmony, who had the doggone audacity to put Yolanda Adams in one of their songs. And she had the nerve to join in there, and she was the most popular Christian artist out. And Bone is some of the most vile lyrics out there, talking about Ouija boards and murder, and had a spell on the inside of their CD cover that you had to hold up to the mirror to read. Rihanna, DMX, Kanye, I could go on and on, but we ignored that because some of that we wanted to play at our church. We wanted to play Pharrell, we wanted to play Happy at church, so we couldn't come down against it. I'm not talking about, like, some of it was symbolic, but some of it they were just saying what they were just saying. I mean, the boy Nada spelled his name Satan backwards. I mean, that's obvious. That's not hidden meanings. That's not playing the music backwards. Like, I know back in the day, you tell you play the record backwards, you start hearing all this weird. I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about the stuff that's in the lyrics. I'm just talking about people that's got stuff in the lyrics. But see, and despite us having people tell us that, I mean, G. Craig Lewis, one of the most famous people that was telling us this years ago, I mean, many years ago, he was telling us that. But because we ignored all that, see, now when we attack this, people are going to turn it into homophobia, which still doesn't make any sense, by the way. The word homophobia, homo being human and phobia being fear, so technically it's a fear of humans. It doesn't make any sense. But we turn, people turn words into whatever they want to. But that's what it's turned into. It's turned into this gay bashing. LGBTQ plus community is come out and said that's what the people that are attacking this is about now. And now we've helped that perception because of our biases and actions towards other things. Because we haven't been consistent in our and believe me. Now, first of all, I got nothing against Lil Nas X as a person. I don't know Lil Nas X. And we believe that homosexuality is against God. And that's all it's about. This ain't about hating a sinner or nothing like that. It's about, we need to deal with these things that are not kingdom actions. That's what this is about. Now, his story, he talks about growing up and hating himself because he was really gay, and he kept hearing that gay was wrong and gay was going to go to hell and stuff like that. And we know as Christians, we haven't always been sensitive in our message either. We haven't always been very clear and very concise and very consistent. And sometimes we've approached this thing the wrong way. But are we teaching our young people, Justice, that we have to look past a great beat and a melody and find out the meaning in these things? Or are we just going to allow them to continue to look at the surface? I mean, think about it. He just told you just told me you heard a little beat and you was tapping your little foot through it.
My foot is actually the same size as yours.
That's a good point. But that's a good point. That's a good point. I think Justice just like the cowboy boots in the song video. That's what I think he like.
Well,
So
I
he's
got
a boot guy.
boots.
Put your boots down.
Okay.
But I think, but you know what? I'm laughing, but it's not funny. Let me take you through some lyrics of this new song. Have you heard this new song? I didn't think so.
No,
I didn't think so.
I want to now.
I got we got a the young person producing for us today. Malik, have you heard this new song? Part of it? Have you seen the video? That one part, yeah. People were playing these stills or showing these stills of it, but I actually watched the whole thing. I don't advise. I'm gonna be honest. Just take some stuff. I'll tell you to research for yourself. I'm telling you to just take my word for it. It's. I mean, watch it if you can. If you can tolerate it, go ahead and watch it. And you got young people that you need to deal with or that you deal with, then go ahead and watch it. But just guard your heart. Pray first. But here are some lyrics to it. Cocaine and drinking with your friends. You live in the dark. Boy, I cannot pretend. So this is him. He's going over his friend's house. Saw him smoking weed and doing cocaine on the table, partying with his friends. And this was supposedly based on a real situation that happened with him. And he's telling them, hey, I see you with your friends and you doing all this. You living this life. You also, people don't know you party like this, but also people don't know you gay because I see you looking at me. I see the way, that's what it said earlier in the song. I see the eyes that you give me. So that's what it said. Okay. Cocaine and drinking with your friends. You live in the dark. Boy, I cannot pretend. I'm not fazed, only here to sin. If Eve ain't in your garden, you know that you can call me when you want. So he gonna be his Eve. Call me when you need. Call me in the morning. I'll be on my way. Call me when you want. Call me when you need. Call me out by your name. I'll be on the way. Now, when he say call me by your name, in that movie, Call Me By Your Name, they basically call him by the same name. So anyway, I ain't gonna go into that. But anyway, how vile is that? To bring Eve in there like that?
It's pretty vile.
This ain't, I didn't have to dig this up. This is what he said. You know what I'm saying? I'm just talking about what he said. If Eve ain't in your garden. So if you ain't got no Eve in your garden, Adam, just call me. That's what he said.
And I'm good. I'm waiting on Mrs. Brown, actually. So please, Mrs. Brown, come on. I don't have to call.
Look at this. Look at this. This is what's going on right now in society. Right now. This is what we're dealing with. Our youth. That's why we had to take an audible today and deal with this stuff. Yeah, you thought I was done, but I'm not. Now I want you to bear with me. There's some stuff I had to blank out. So it says, AA, I want to sell what you're buying. I want to feel all over your blank in Hawaii. I want that jet laugh from blanking and flying. Shoot a child in your mouth while I'm riding. Oh, why me? The sign of the times every time that I speak. A dime and a nine. It was mine every week. What a time and incline. God was shining on me. Now I can't leave. That's jarring.
Mm-hmm.
That's jarring. Now you see what he did there? He went from this lustful imagery to talking about a dime and a nine, 10 plus 9. That's 19 weeks he was on top. And he was saying, I was on my way up. God was shining on me. This was God doing this. Now I can't leave because God has shined on me. Now I'm at the top. But while I'm at the top, I want to have this guy in this lustful relationship. And see, I had to show you the lyrics as they are, because some of us think we just playing. Some of us think this is just a joke. Some of us think, it's harmless. It's just music. But do you know what your children are listening to? Do you know what you listening to and sharing with your children? It's got nothing to do with it being the fact that it's a guy and a guy, though we do believe that that's wrong. But it would be wrong if it was just saying it about anybody. What do you think about that? What do I think this whole thing? How it all came tied together?
Well, you know, I you play some tapes of G. Craig Lewis, and I think we all had that um understanding that you can't always look at something on the surface and get the whole picture. You got to go deeper than that. Um, and I think that's really important to keep drilling that in, especially the younger people now coming up. Um, I don't think it's ever too young for somebody to learn to, dig a little deeper. But uh, when we don't get that, it can go over our heads. Like with me, I'm thinking this is a cool song. This is okay to listen to, and then you dig a little deeper and you find all this stuff, and it's not that deep anyway. I mean, it's literally
I'm
like
glad you said that.
literally like maybe a couple inches deeper. I mean, it's just crazy, and it's sad that our young people, me included in that, are kind of getting sucked into this stuff, and and we don't realize that we're getting sucked into it. It's like, what can we do? Well, the only thing we can do is to open our eyes and see what's really happening.
And be taught and be willing to listen to teaching. See, that's a key too. We have to teach as older people, but they have to be willing. And Justice, I played some G. Craig Lewis, but we've done several where we dig into some lyrics of some songs that people don't necessarily. I mean, if you look back in American history, nobody talks about Elvis Presley and how we started dating a woman at 14 years old. Nobody talks about that type of stuff. Nobody talks about some of your popular R&B songs um, celebrating the rape culture. Nobody wants to talk about that because nobody wants to actually read what's saying, because that was what we grew up with. You don't mess with Elvis in American society. You go to Tennessee and you say something bad about Elvis if you want to, you're gonna be in trouble. But we gotta be consistent and honest and consistently, and not that we're perfect, but that we're consistently looking for those things and consistently asking and questioning what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be doing, and what we're teaching our children and what we're not, and our youth, not just children. I'm talking about young people. Because see, we get that stuff in our heads and we wonder why depression numbers start increasing. We wonder why these numbers of these mental issues start, because there's so much confusion. So much confusion. So listen, y'all, we really wanted to just touch on these topics uh, about what's going on in our culture, just so we can deal with these things. Please, I'm imploring you, look past the surface levels, because y'all heard the opening scripture and how important our children are. Children, how important it is to listen to the counsel of your parents and to the wisdom. We have to. We have to. 2021, our young people are facing things so much quicker than we ever did because of social media and the world shrinking. So much quicker than we ever did. So pray for us. Pray for us as we deal with these things. Because I know everybody's not going to like this. People might attack us because of this. People might say, oh, you attacking homosexuals. No, I'm not. But people might say that. But pray for us, because we're dealing with some sensitive thing. And that's what we committed. We've committed to deal with what's really going on in society. Like this video. Share it. Subscribe. Hit that thumbs up first. Share it with your friends. Share it with your enemies. And subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know what's coming up next. I mean, we need all the positive comments that we can get, because I know it's some negative ones that are going to come. I know it's some negative ones going to come, and that's okay. Because if the world loves you, are you really saying what's right? So, again, if you don't like what we said, don't reach out to Kingdom. Don't reach out to Pastor Lay Friend. You can reach us at KHM Social Media at gmail.com, or leave a comment right under the video. We'll check it out. But we can't leave Justice without that bottom bun.
Exactly. We had so much juice in the middle of this Big Mac.
Juice.
Yes, juice. This was a juicy Big Mac today. Anyways, yeah, so we need the bottom bun. So the bottom bun comes from Ezekiel 28:13 through 19 in the King James Version.
Now, before you read this, we're talking about this because we want you to understand more about Lucifer and what he's really all about and why music is so important and why he uses it.
Absolutely. And verse 13 says, Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was thy covering, the sardius, topaz, and the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes was prepared in thee in the day that thou wast created.
So let's just stop there. Lucifer created with all these beautiful jewels, tabrets, pipes built into his being. He was an instrument. Lucifer was music. Why wouldn't he use music? That's what he knows best. Why do we act so surprised? Go ahead, continue.
Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day that thou wast created, till iniquity was found in thee. By the multitudes of thy merchandise, they have filled the midst of thee with violence, and thou hast sinned. Therefore I will cast thee as profane out of the mountain of God, and I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire.
And it continues in verse 17 to say, Thine heart was lifted up because of thy beauty. Thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by reason of thy brightness. I will cast thee to the ground. I will lay thee before kings, that they may behold thee. Thou hast defiled thy sanctuaries by the multitude of thine iniquities, by the iniquity of thy traffic. Therefore I will bring forth a fire from the midst of thee, and it shall devour thee. And I will bring thee to ashes upon the earth in the sight of all them that behold thee. All they that know thee among the people shall be astonished at thee. Thou shalt be a terror, and never shalt thou be any more. I'm telling you, Lucifer literally was made for this. He was created for music. It only makes sense that he uses it as one of his most powerful tools, his most powerful tool in my opinion. We have to be, as the leaders, as the adults, we have to be the ones looking out for our young people. That's on us. Young people, it's on you to listen. So until we meet again, God bless you. Stay safe.